Well, it is finally here. Today is the day that millions of Americans across the country will cast their vote. And my hope for this midterm is that Democrats actually can take back one chamber of Congress. Now, it's looking likely that they will be able to win back the House, but I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic and just let you all know to close this video immediately and go vote if you haven't already done so. But I did want to tell you guys about some races that I think we should all be watching because these are very important and fascinating races. And later on, I'll come back with the full results of the election. And I'm watching quite a bit of races. So first and foremost, at the governor level, there's obviously the all too important race between Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp. She has put up with an abundance of voter suppression tactics, and regardless, she's still polling really well for a Democrat in a deep red state such as Georgia, and she's doing exactly what she needs to do. I've said repeatedly on this program that every single election for a Democrat is a get out the vote campaign, and she's done that. So she deserves to win, and Brian Kemp deserves to lose more than anything. Another race to watch is a race happening in my home state of Oregon. So we have a governor, Kate Brown, who isn't super popular, but I voted for her because she's done a couple of things to prove her worth, in my opinion. She signed net neutrality into law, and really, that in and of itself is important, but she's also stood up against the Justice Department to defend our legal recreational marijuana laws. So I support her, but what's interesting is we see something in this race that you almost never see. You see a Republican running as Democrat light, trying to convince us that he's liberal, trying to convince us that he supports women's reproductive rights, and we'll see if something like this can actually lead him to victory in the state of Oregon. I mean, they're actually polling relatively close. Kate Brown is ahead, but she's just outside the margin of error. So this is kind of a nail-biter for the state of Oregon. But needless to say, I'm curious to know if the Democrat light strategy will work. Is that going to demoralize the base, or will Republicans get out and support this individual, Newt Bweller? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Bweller, I'm not sure. It doesn't matter, because hopefully I don't have to hear from him again. But we'll see if that's enough, because we know that Republican light is often a disastrous strategy for Democrats. So let's see if it works out here. Another race to look out for is the race in Florida between Andrew Gillum and Trumpian politician Ron DeSantis. Hopefully Andrew Gillum can pull out a victory, because we have enough Trumpian politicians in Congress. We don't need one to be a governor in Florida. Additionally, we have Ben Jealous facing off against Larry Hogan in the state of Maryland. Ben Jealous is a firebrand progressive, and I am absolutely rooting for him. We also have Christine Hallquist facing off against Phil Scott in the state of Vermont. If Christine wins, she will make history as the first transgender governor, but also she's progressive to boot. Now, additionally, there's a number of Senate races to watch. Bernie Sanders is up for re-election. I'm not really going to be following that too closely because I think he's going to do okay. But of course, the race everyone's talking about is the race between Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is up. He's polling outside the margin of error, but early voting numbers shows that Beto's not out of it just yet. So for the love of God, people, I am so sick of talking about Ted Cruz. I don't like looking at his smug, tonsil stone eating face. Please, for the love of God, vote Ted Cruz out of office. I'm not the biggest Beto O'Rourke supporter in the world. I don't think he's the best candidate ever. He's kind of more like an Elizabeth Warren or a Sherrod Brown. But for the love of God, he's not Ted Cruz, and he's fairly progressive. He's someone who has given us the signal that he would co-sponsor Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill if he were to be elected. So, people, please. I mean, it's Ted Cruz versus Beto O'Rourke. If I had the opportunity to vote for Beto, I absolutely would enthusiastically cast my vote for Beto and not that smarmy, smug Zodiac killer, Ted Cruz. Other races to look out for are a bunch of Republican-light Democrats who are up for re-election in the Senate. We have Claire McCaskill potentially bungling this race in Missouri against the Republican Josh Hawley. We have Heidi Heitkamp in North Dakota, who's probably going to lose because, I mean, let's face it, she's governed as a Republican, and as a result, her base just isn't excited. We have Joe Donnelly in Indiana, polling essentially within the margin of error. We have Jackie Rosen in the state of Nevada, Joe Manchin going up against Patrick Morrissey in West Virginia, probably going to pull it off, but I'm not sure. We have conservative Democrat Phil Bredesen going up against the spawn of Satan, Marsha Blackburn. So really it's lose-lose for voters, but hopefully Bredesen can pull this off because Marsha Blackburn obviously is worse than Phil Bredesen. And then we have a really interesting race to watch in the state of California. We have Kevin De Leon going up against Dianne Feinstein, and she's polling ahead of him. But if we can get Dianne Feinstein out and Kevin De Leon in, even if he's not perfect, even if he takes corporate PAC money, progressives should be rooting for him, one, because he's not Dianne Feinstein, and two, because he actually does support Medicare for All. He states that he would co-sponsor Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill. So I would be ecstatic if he won. And for the love of God, California is a deep blue state. Why do you keep voting for Dianne Feinstein? She's someone who is a conservative Democrat. She refuses to support Medicare for All. She only recently started to signal support for recreational marijuana because she had a progressive challenger in Allison Hardson and Kevin De Leon and David Hildebrand. But I mean, this would be phenomenal for the progressive movement as a whole if we can get her out. The media would count this as a win for us. And I think that's going to be important and give us some momentum going into 2020. When it comes to the House, obviously, we're all making sure that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez secures her victory. Now, additionally, there's another really important race taking place in the 9th Congressional District of Washington, with Sarah Smith going up against corporate Democrat and warhawk Adam Smith, no relation. She's been on my program multiple times, and I wholeheartedly endorse her. She's just as progressive as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and if she were to win, this would be a gigantic victory for progressives. We also have Rashida Tlaib in Michigan's 13th Congressional District, one to watch. We have Ilhan Omar going up in Minnesota, the 5th Congressional District to be exact. Amar Campanajjar going up against corporate indicted Republican Duncan Hunter in California's 50th Congressional District. We have Green Party candidate Kenneth Mejia taking on corporate Democrat Jimmy Gomez in California's 34th Congressional District. And in Florida's 23rd District, we have Tim Canova, an independent, up against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, corporate Democrat extraordinaire, in a dead heat. He can pull this off. So definitely vote for him. In the state of Kansas, their 4th Congressional District, we have James Thompson going up against Ron Estes. In Wisconsin's 1st Congressional District, we have Randy Bryce going up against Brian Steele. So hopefully Iron Stash can pull out a victory. In the 4th Congressional District of Nevada, we have corporate Democrat Stephen Horsford going up against Crescent Hardy, a Republican. Now, this was the race, if you'll all recall, that Amy Vilela ran in. And this district is kind of a purple district. It's a toss-up. And Stephen Horsford is a terrible candidate, so we'll see if he can pull this off, and if not, then I think we're all going to be saying "I told you so." In that Amy Vilela should have been the candidate, but the establishment has shunned her completely. So we'll see how that goes. Additionally, we have Kara Eastman facing off against Don Bacon in Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District. We have Jess King in Pennsylvania's 11th Congressional District. We have Keith Ellison for Attorney General in Minnesota. Not necessarily sure if that's going to be a victory for progressives or not, because there are some domestic abuse allegations that are absolutely not going away. Now, Keith Ellison did the right thing here in asking the FBI to investigate, but this is certainly a cloud that's hanging over his head, so win or lose, this is a tricky situation here. So we'll see how that goes. Additionally, I want to point out a state race. In New York's 53rd district, we have Julia Salazar. So there's plenty of races to watch out for. I will give you updates to all of these later, but these are the ones that I'm watching. Please comment down below if there's any race that's particularly important to you. I know I didn't cover all of them, but I will be doing everything I can to at least give you the results of the most high-profile races, and then tomorrow we'll come back with my post-election analysis. I'll go over some ballot initiatives that are progressive that won, and also I'm going to tell you what we should do next in the event Democrats are actually able to successfully take back the House. So stay tuned.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.